Hello and welcome everybody to According to Andrew number 91, School of Rock, Jack Black's greatest movie. I just rewatched this movie again like Wednesday, and so I want to do something a little bit different and just talk about this movie because it is one of my favorite movies of all time probably, and I just think it's excellent and awesome and just everything about it is great. Um, so maybe not the most unbiased opinion, but I definitely think this is a great movie, and if you haven't seen it, I definitely recommend going and watching it. Um, it's rated PG-13. I don't know if it says it anywhere there, so if depending on your audience or whatever, buyer beware. Uh, but I think the reason that it's such a great movie is it's got story, it's got comedy, and it's got music in this just delightful package that just fits together so well. Um, but I was thinking about like why I thought it was Jack Black's greatest movie and what made it so great. And for me, it's about the expressions of Jack Black, how expressive he is in the movie. It's so over the top that it makes it great. Every single time he says something, there's usually some kind of physical action that he does that kind of emphasizes it. Um, there's one scene where Tamika kind of is getting nervous about whether or not she can sing, right? She's getting some stage fright. And so he goes and talks to her and kind of calms her down and everything's good. And then, because she agrees to it or whatever, he gets down on her knee, gets down on his knees and hugs her because he's like so excited that she's like gonna uh, go on stage and everything's gonna work out, right? And that's just like an extra level of over the top, and it fits within the movie. Uh, you know, Not doing that stuff all the time doesn't necessarily make it hit all the time, but uh, it it works in this movie to an amazing degree. And if we pop up this slideshow here, um, you can kind of see that. So, one second. So you can see here's a great like where he just kind of goes over the top in all the stuff he does, and there's just like a level of like passion, excitement, and I don't know if it was director or if it was of Jack Black himself that was like really excited about this role, and so he just kind of went and went for it and went super over the top with a lot of his stuff and how he expressed himself. But it just fits. It really works with this movie, and I think it's the thing that really kind of puts it over the top in terms of it just being maybe another movie. Um, Another great thing is the music. The music is excellent. You got classics like "Immigration Song" by Led Zeppelin. Um, what are some of the other? There's songs that you'll recognize throughout the movie they're excellent. But then on top of all of that, the new songs that they introduce into the show are really catchy and really good. Uh, the final one that they do for the show is just so good. It's been running through my head like the last 3 days, and it's been awesome. I was singing it right before I started this whole thing, uh, and it's so like there's so many little things that complement each other and they go for it. And another big thing is like the story. So it's it's not about like uh, rock and stuff. It's sex, drugs, and rock and roll. But like that's not the focus, right? Dewey's whole focus is making a great show. That wasn't his initial purpose, right? He set out, and the whole thing was he's gonna scam these kids so he can get 20 grand, so he can pay his rent and actually have some money for once in his life. But then also he's been looking for a band and stuff like that. But then it transforms over time where he's getting to know these people, and he's like, you know what, we can put on a great show, and putting on a great show is the most important thing. That's really all we care about. And he loses sight of that a little bit at the very end, but he doesn't lose sight of it because it's like, oh man, we lost. Like I wish that we had won so that I could have had that money. It could have been that. To me, it doesn't come across that way. It was like we put on such a good show. I think we should have won because we're so awesome. And some of the kids kind of remind him like, look, it was about putting on a great show. It wasn't about winning or losing. And whether or not we won or lost doesn't isn't indicative of whether or not that show was great. And he's like, oh yeah, you guys are right. Like let's like hold our heads high. And then they ask him for an encore and they go out and they have a great time. And that's how the movie ends. Um, Spoilers. It's not really like a spoiler type movie. It's just a good like I've watched this movie like 100 times probably, and I had like so much of it memorized when I was watching it. It was kind of insane. It shows you how much I've watched it. And this also like to kind of put my biases out there. Uh, I watched this movie when I was about the age of the kids in the movie, so I was like between like 10 and 13 or whatever. So in that regard, I kind of like relate to people in this movie maybe a little bit like more. And this is the first Jack Black movie I ever think I saw. So for me, um, this is this is how I think of Jack Black when I think of movies and things like that. Is like this is how he's supposed to be. Like here's another subtle little thing where like he's doing stuff and his eyes are like really wide and he's got his uh, eyebrows up. There's just like so many subtle little things where he just goes a little bit extra, a little bit more over the top that really sells uh, his excitement, his expression about things. And I think it's a good. I think it fits in the story really well because he's this really expressive, really over the top um, guy, and then he's going into the school where they're all kind of working stiffs, right? That's the and they're good at their school, they do their stuff, and it's like go do this, focus on your homework, get that done, and then everything's good, and they're just kind of locked up. And so he kind of introduces some of that and frees them up and is like, look, man, like life isn't all about just doing A, B, C, playing the safe thing. Always like you got to take some risks, you got to live a little bit, have some fun and things like that. You could say that this is kind of like a um, uh, d- deal with the devil kind of thing, where it's like, oh, just always have fun, always have, don't worry, we're just here to have fun and goof around and not do any of that stuff. But that's not really how the story goes because um, the drummer guy, I'm blanking on his name right now. Uh, he that's kind of how he took it. He's like, oh, I'm gonna go run off with these guys and have fun. And Jack Black's like, no, those guys are posers. They want to just sell out, or they want to live the lifestyle. They don't want to actually like create great music. And it's not about the lifestyle. It's about creating great music. And that's kind of in contradiction to another movie that he has, which is Tenacious D, which is I've only seen bits and pieces of the movie. I haven't seen the whole movie, so if this is a mischaracterization, fine. But like that is more them trying to make it and live the lifestyle. And this is more a rejection. So it's kind of interesting to see those two opposing sides of the movie where one's they're trying to sell out. I think ultimately they do sell out to literally the devil in Tenacious D, um, and the other side where it's like no, this is about putting on a great show. That's all we care about, and one great show can change the world, man. That's the whole gist of the movie, and you can it comes through really well. It's impressive how they sell it. It's hilariously also Sarah Silverman's best job as a actress because she's not trying to be funny and she fits that role far better. That's all I'm gonna say on that part. um, the music's great. It's not about that. Oh, and then one thing that I think really helps the movie is um, it's a very different from the other Jack Black movies that I've seen. It's a different type of comedy. So a lot of Jack Black's comedy seems to center around something sexual, some kind of sexual joke type thing. In year one, there was, and sometimes it's not super over the top, right? Like in year one, he's trying to get with like the hottest chick in the um, tribe, and then the joke is, oh, sorry, I'm just a little bit more traditional. I like a man that can provide and protect and stuff like that. And they're hunter gatherers, so obviously that's what she wants, right? So that's a joke, but it's kind of centered around that kind of thing, where that would totally be off-putting and not really fit in the tone of this movie at all. And so it kind of requires him to go outside. Another comparison, Tenacious D, there's the cock push-up thing, and then in Jumanji, there's some girl is transported into the body of Jack Black in the movie, and so like she's joking around or whatever. It's like, oh, I have a penis, so let's see what this is. Oh, it's amazing that I can pee out of this thing, right? That's when so the fact that those jokes don't fly and aren't going to work within this setting really force the writers in Jack Black to kind of be different, work outside the box of what his normal wheelhouse seems to be, and it worked really well. And I I don't I don't know how many other things are, but like maybe Jack Black should have gone more down that path. It's a little far for that one, but I think it worked really great. And then there's this other other great scene which I wanted to always use during COVID, where the kids are sick or pretending to be sick so that they can get into battle of the bands, and he asks what the disease is, and it's stick it to the lung neosis. And oh my gosh, dude, I wanted to use that during COVID so bad, where people were like, when people are like, "Oh, wear your mask," and I'd be like, "Oh, I can't. I have this disease or whatever," and they're like, "What is it?" And they'll stick it in the lung, Yosis. Oh man, that would have been so good. It never came up that I was able to use that. I'm a little sad about that, because that would have been absolutely great. Um, but yeah, so it's a well-paced movie that's really funny. Uh, is Jack Black at his best in terms of his expressive behavior and really just kind of having passion shine through, and the music's great, and it just you I can't think of someone in the movie that really had a bad performance. Everyone kind of fits their character mold so well. And maybe that's just because I saw the movie when I was really young. And so it's like, but even I just watched it like 2 days ago and it still holds up. It's so good, dude. It's so good. So take 2.5 hours out of your day and watch this movie because it's great. All right. Highly recommend. 10 out of 10. Should be on your top 10 list. Like, that's how good I think this movie is. Um, So anyway, that's kind of it. All I wanted to say. I didn't want this one to be super long, just because it's a movie review. That's 10, 15 minutes seems to be appropriate for that. Thank you guys, everybody, for listening. I'm on uh, Podbean and YouTube and BitChute, so that you can find me in all those locations. And thank you guys for listening. Goodbye.